Every year we are asked to do a club assembly, which is an opportunity for us and the leadership of the club to talk about the plans for the year. Just sort of start with our 2012 board. These are all people who you should know. They're the ones who really drive the activity of the club. That's really the leadership team. But I want to point out four in particular, our four officers. Elizabeth Gill, who's our treasurer. Bill Knight's our incoming secretary. Candace, of course, is president-elect. And Means Davis is our past president. The way we're organized is each of those, in addition to these officer roles, have additional responsibilities for groups of directors in different areas. So Elizabeth handles membership, so anything that's membership related kind of falls with Elizabeth. Operations and education falls with Bill. Service projects falls with Candace, and resource development falls with Means. So if you have a question about any of these things, or an opinion, or a suggestion, you can ask these guys about it. Just an update on our numbers. At this point, we're 81% male and 98% white. That means that we doubled our percentage of African Americans last year. We went from 1% to 2%. So that's good. We are getting more diverse, but we still have a long way to go, obviously, with these numbers. Anything we can do to add to the diversity of the club so that it reflects the diversity of our community is good. Our average age is 60. That compares to the average adult of 44. It's actually, we're a year older than we were last year. We all got a year older, and that's what affected it. Employment, 37% self-employed, 40% employed by for-profit companies, 14% employed by nonprofits, and 9% retired. 78% live or work within 5 miles of Anthony's. I actually thought that number was going to go down. We were 75% 2 years ago. There is, on the website, there's something called Where We Live and Work, and if you go there, you can see this map, and if you roll over any of those points, it will tell you who lives at that point, but you can see where we live and where we work. Very much in between 75 and 85, south of 285 generally. In terms of overall satisfaction with the club on our survey, actually our number went down from 2009 to 2011. The mean went from about 5.9 to 5.3. I don't have a great explanation for that beyond the skills of the president, but we obviously still have some work to do there on satisfaction. This chart's going to be unfortunately hard to read, but what it does is it looks at assess program value. The people who responded to the survey, how valuable do they find different programs that we do? And as we think about on the board, as we think about where to allocate our resources and our energies, obviously we're listening to people, we have our own opinions, but the survey data also influences us as well. The orange or the yellow is this year, the blue is last year. If you look at the list on the right, that's from sort of top to bottom. And so polio is the number one in terms of the opinion of our folks. GRSP, number two. Habitat for Humanity, always very important to our membership, remains very important. Literacy, very important, interesting, in that we don't do a lot with literacy, so I think that's something we need to be looking at. Caring Hands, Group Study Exchange, KIP, all those are very, very important programs to us, and we have a lot of emphasis on those. I won't go through the whole list. We also ask the membership what's important to you in 5 areas. Number one is the weekly program, the quality of the program and the food and what your experience is like on a weekly basis. That's obviously the way most of us experience Rotary the most. Number two is local projects. 3 was international projects, and really together, international projects, social events, and the food and service quality were the least important to our group. Although, as president, as any president will tell you, you wouldn't know that food wasn't that important to most members. You get a lot of help on food. We also asked about some of the recent changes we've made, moving the holiday party to a private home, moving the Reverend Ross Johnson Award from the holiday party event to the actual club meeting, moving the layout of the room, putting us back here, and doing fewer, bigger projects. The blue is negative, the gold is positive, the gray is neutral. So as you can see, 60% of the club is neutral or positive on moving the holiday party, 80% on Reverend Ross Johnson, moving that to a weekly event, a regular event, and the changes in the room layout and the fewer projects. Those all seem to be pretty well received. Our mission is to unite the leaders from all walks of life, amplifying their individual contributions to make Atlanta and the world a better place to live and work. And I want to talk a little bit about our plan to do that in the next year. People join Rotary for 3 reasons. They start, sort of the view is they start because they're interested in building their career. They're coming in for networking purposes. They tend to then get involved because of the community stuff, and they tend to stay because they make a lot of friends. So as we put together our plan, we want to deliver on all 3 of those. We want to provide opportunities for people to network, to build their businesses. We want to provide opportunities for them to impact the community and also social as well. I think we are in excellent shape on 2 and 3. We still got some work to do, I think, on the career networking side of thing. Obviously, we don't want to have everybody get up here and, or constantly be emailing every other member of the club on why they ought to buy something from them. Also, I would encourage you, if you're thinking about buying something, start with a member of Rotary. Think, is there somebody in Rotary who I could buy this from? And we do have a classification webpage on the site, so if you're not really sure, you can look there and figure out who provides those sorts of services. Effective Rotary clubs are able to sustain and increase membership. They're able to implement successful service projects, support the Rotary and other foundations. We have 3 that we support, and develop leaders beyond the club level. A couple of years ago, we developed our long-range plan. Our goal is to increase membership to 200, to build a more engaged, better managed club through a great calendar of social events and better board engagement with and leadership of the members, the best weekly program in the district, use our strengths to educate our community about the good we do in the world, starting with our own membership, substantially increase our impact on our community through fewer, larger, more focused programs emphasizing youth, health, international peace, and community development, those 4 areas. And then finally, we live in the richest community in Georgia. Let's increase our funds raised per member over time to by 50%. And as you all know, we made great progress on all these goals last year. So for 2012, our membership plan is pretty much to stay the course. We want to increase membership by another 8 to 183. The process that worked for us last year is external recruiting. We handled, I think we did 4 events last year, and we want to continue that. If we're going to achieve our mission of bringing the leaders in our community together, we can't wait for them to come to us. We've got to go find them and convince them to join us. We want to canvass current members for prospective new members. All of you have got friends, colleagues who might be interested in Rotary. I think our own membership is by far and away the best possible source of new members for us. Rigorous Rotary information. There have been some complaints about how rigorous it is, but we do think that we get a much more committed Rotarian, somebody who really understands what's involved if they go through that process, and the same thing with the Red Badge program as well. So all those will stay in place. Oh, and I should point out, Kay Quigley is our new membership chair. In terms of the 2012 engagement plan, our goal here is a more engaged club. We have a lot of new members. This is not unusual, but I think 25% of our members have joined in the last 2 years. So Candace has put together a formal engagement team. She's got a point system that she's putting in place. But our goal there is to reach out to every Rotarian, find out what's on their minds, what would they like to do, what input do they have for us, so that, again, the leadership is more connected with the membership. We have 3 co-chairs there, Candace, Ashley Pressinger, and Betsy Burkholtz are running that effort. Joe really revamped the social calendar last year with a lot of new events. Basically, the goal is to have some social event every month of the year, and he's got a huge group of people who support him on that. Education and publicity, use our strengths to educate our community about the good we do in the world, starting with their own membership. The 2 big projects this year are we will do a printed roster. Haven't done that in a couple of years. We do that biannually, so we'll do that this year. And also, we're going to completely rewrite the website. We've already started that process basically, the website over the last couple of years, most of our energy has been around making it work from an administrative perspective, make it easier to administer our club, but not so much using it to tell our story. So we are rewriting it with much more of a focus on the website's power to tell not only our own members, but the external community, all the things we're doing and how we're getting it done. Service projects, again, our goal is to increase our impact on our community through fewer, larger, more focused programs. We have 2 new signature pilot projects this year. One you just heard about, GMOM. The other is Livable Buckhead, which you'll be hearing more about. We didn't have a long enough relationship with either of those organizations to kind of pick one for a 3-year commitment. So we said, let's do pilots with both of them, and then we will see how that sorts itself out. But that's a significant step up to add 2 of those projects this year. The Bucket Rotary Grants, where we match money that you give to others, is being tremendously expanded this year. It was sold out very quickly last year, so I think we've quadrupled the size of it, Candace, roughly? Not quite, but I mean, so that'll be, you'll hear more about that later this month, and we'll be opening that up in September. And then we have a significant Ecuador project that we're working on getting that nailed down. As you'll remember, we went through this whole problem last year with our grant being denied by Rotary International because of the new Future Vision rules. We went back and pushed back on that. They changed the rules, but by the time they changed the rules, the hospital in Ecuador had already built the burn unit. They were done, so we're now looking for another project, and we'll double up. So rather than we had a certain amount we're going to give them last year, we'll give them twice that much this year. So that's on our radar as well. So those are all very significant service projects. In terms of club operations, our goal is the best weekly program in the district. Program committee this year is Kevin Glass and Dak Carver running that. The food committee, for the first time we have a food committee. I was just talking to some of those guys with Scott Smith, yes, sorry. With Scott chairing that, and that's all tied into the change in ownership at Anthony's. One of the questions that has arisen is, should we increase the amount the food cost? So we pay them a certain amount per meal. Obviously, they've got to put a meal on for that price, and that limits their choices to some extent in terms of food. So one thing we'll be looking at is perhaps we ought to raise the dues a little bit and then raise the amount we're paying them so we can get better food quality. Again, we have a lot of people who feel very passionately about this. We have a lot of people who don't really care that much, so it's not an easy call as to whether we ought to do that or not. We also have the change at Anthony's, and anytime there's an ownership change, it always makes me nervous, but we're working through that. We're working very closely with them, and we are, as you know, in the past couple of years, we've looked at alternatives, and we are kind of keeping that open as well should something untoward happen. So all those things are floating around, and Bill Knight, really couldn't be happier. Bill Knight is handling that for us, is on top of that. Fundraising, Marvin's our chair there. Last year, I have to repeat this slide, we went from 138 to 186. That was a 35% increase. Ty Tippett pointed out that we got the foundation award at the district this year, so he said we ought to just keep doing what we're doing. But we can do more. We can do this better. We also have the funds from our own Rotary Foundation, our own Buckhead Rotary Foundation, coming into our budget this year. So that 186, the goal for 2012 is 225, or a 20% increase. That seems high, but again, we have this extra source of money. We have a bigger membership. I think that's going to be achievable, not necessarily a layup, but I think it will be achievable. And that's a big change over the last couple of years in terms of what we're able to do for our community. That'll take our fundraising to about $1,100 per member. That's not obviously contributions. That includes money we raise through the tennis tournament, money we raise through from the foundation, the ball. There's a whole series of ways in which we raise that money. Only about 28% of it comes from your quarterly dues. The rest of it comes from sustainers and gifts, the ball, tennis and basketball, the Buckhead Rotary Foundation, and then we get a very small amount of money from the district. Our charitable budget is increasing 50% year over year, 57%. So that was 2011. This is 2012. So you can see we were very weighted towards youth and education last year. We've worked to try to even that out a bit, and you can see that the split is a little more even now. I put all of the Buckhead Rotary grants into community in this chart because I don't know exactly what people are going to be asking for, so that could change it. If all the Buckhead Rotary matching grants come in and they're all about kids, then that would change the balance a little bit. But because of the GMOM program, that increased our health number. International is always big, and we've got a lot of money going into community this year, also with the money going to the Livable Buckhead project. So we've got a much better balance against our 4 areas of focus next year, or this year. Oh, by the way, not only do we get a better balance, but everything went up. Even though youth and education is a smaller part of our budget, we're spending more money for youth and education this year than we did last year. 2011, record net membership gain, revamped social program, traditional new media publicity, major new service project, a substantial increase in our financial resources, as you've seen. For 2012, +8 on membership, strong social and weekly programs, improved club engagement, 2 new signature project pilots, the Ecuador project, a major website upgrade, and another significant fundraising gain. I think it's going to be a very, very productive year for us. That's about all I've got. This is our sort of tagline, be the community you desire. That's what I urge all of you to do. If we want our community to change, then we have to change. And if we want to be involved in it, we have to be involved in it. Questions? That convincing?
Thank you for your leadership.
Oh, well, thank you.